Hey there, thanks for tuning into Duck Bricks. I'm Chris, and I just got a package in the mail from the LEGO Ambassador Network with two sets that I personally have never seen before and honestly never expected to own. So what exactly are these? Well, these are part of LEGO's initiative to launch Braille bricks for those who have visual impairments and to essentially make their own language consisting of specially molded 2x4 bricks that have a certain amount of studs on them to correspond with different letters and symbols in different alphabets. LEGO specifically has sent me 40655 Play with Braille Bricks the French alphabet, as well as 40656 Play with Braille English alphabet. And surprisingly, there are quite a lot of differences between the two. So what's the deal with these two sets? Essentially, each set comes with an assortment of specialized molded LEGO Braille bricks. This is part of an initiative that they announced several years ago and actually have been already circulating amongst different communities, but for the first time LEGO is opening it up to registered LEGO fan media like myself to showcase and be able to highlight this program to reveal for all of you. Now, what we are going to be doing throughout the course of this video is essentially taking a look at all of the different bricks included, taking a look at the molds of them, how they might be used in different applications, and of course, sharing my thoughts on the Braille Bricks program in general, as well as just a general unboxing of these two very interesting LEGO sets. And so without further ado, let's jump into our review and overview of both of the LEGO Braille Brick sets, 40655 and 40656, the French and English alphabets. Alright, so here we have set number 40655, Play with Braille French alphabet, 40656, Play with Braille English alphabet. These are really interestingly designed boxes because the fronts actually have Braille imprinted onto them. They have a different texture than normal boxes, presumably because this actually reads as Braille. You can feel the bumps, which is really great. And while they may seem very similar, if not identical at first glance, the contents of these two boxes are actually very, very different, right down to the printing on the bricks themselves. Strangely enough, the English one uses A1, B2, C3, which is of course for the English alphabet, printed on the bricks themselves, so it has the numbers and the letters for the standard ones. However, for the French alphabet, they have used the numbers on the special letters with characters on them, which I find to be really interesting, which means that you essentially have two different versions of the letter A, one with A and one with A1, depending on what alphabet you are using. You also have some slight differences in coloration and piece type for some of the particular variations of languages. I guess in French, the Braille symbol for the hashtag sign here, or the pound, is just one single dot, whereas in English, it is 4 dots, like in this configuration. So there are regional differences here, which I find to be really interesting. And pretty much you can see what is included in these boxes. The English one includes a few more pieces of the standard ones, such as 12 of a lot of these letters, whereas the French one uses only 10s to 6s because they just have a wider variety of bricks. But it's really, really interesting. Once again, thank you to LEGO for sending me these over, for showcasing them. Hopefully this is going to shed some light on LEGO's Braille initiative, because I think it's a really great thing that LEGO is doing this, especially for kids who want to play with LEGO but just can't really see it outside of just using Braille. So I think it's a really fantastic thing for LEGO to do. So I'm going to start off by opening the English alphabet one, because that one I feel makes the most sense to take a look at first. I do speak a little bit of French, je parle un peu de français, but my main language is English, so we are going to take a look at this right now. This is just going to be opening it up kind of just on the spot. I really do not know what to expect here. I absolutely want to keep these boxes. I don't really save boxes normally, but I feel like with something really special like this, I have to keep the boxes. So I'm going to very carefully cut the tape open like so, and let's get this open. Okay, so immediately you can see that this is a really nice looking box. You can see that the imprints on the cover kind of show through on the backside, which I find really interesting. But first of all here, you can see that this does have a glossary of pretty much every single brick included in the set, almost like a periodic table here, and this does have imprints on them, which I think is really nice. That is so interesting. These actually have the LEGO stud imprints as well, so you can really feel them, which I really appreciate. That is very cool how LEGO has basically made their own system for Braille. This is like almost a translation system, because obviously you're working with only a few limited number of studs, so I guess if you know how to read Braille, you can feel this, and then you know that this is what they mean by that. So that is really, really cool. I'm very curious having this in the hands of people who actually can read Braille. I'm very curious what they would say or think about these LEGO bricks, but overall I think it's a really great initiative, and let's actually open these up right now. So right here it does come with a couple of base plates so you can use these to attach the pieces onto, and most importantly, you've got all of the bricks right here pretty much just in the bags, and this is really, really cool for LEGO to do this. Let's go ahead and put these out on the base plate right now. Okay, so here are the entire contents of set number 40656. This is the English language version of the alphabet. It comes with a mix between 8 to 12 of the standard letters, as well as some copies of 4 of them when you get to the more rarely used letters like W and X, as well as some numerical operators. You've got pluses, minuses, times, divide, equals, as well as some commas and asterisks, and even a shift key. Altogether, there are 141 different pieces included in the set, most of which are just repeats of the main alphabet, but you also have some outliers. Specifically, there are 2 bricks included that are essentially plain. You can transcribe whatever value you want to them. They don't necessarily need to represent anything other than whatever you decide them to be, and otherwise, these pretty much are just what LEGO has come up with to represent different things. Now, the one thing I find really interesting about this is that LEGO has essentially made their own language via the studs and the bricks and asked people to just read Braille and then translate them over to the LEGO language. Some of the choices do make sense, say for instance the J is shaped like a J, whereas other ones I feel like LEGO made it a little bit more abstract just to allow people to associate the feeling of the studs with particular letters. And it's a really interesting system. It almost feels like LEGO has come up with their own separate language of studs, which you can use to transcribe over to different letters. Now, this is a really, really exciting thing for LEGO to be doing for a number of reasons. First of all, the obvious one is that this is going to make LEGO a lot more accessible, and also it's going to help kids who have visual impairments or blind children to be able to actually enjoy the process of learning a new language and actually being able to understand and communicate with the world, which I think is a great initiative. And for the LEGO builders out there, these bricks provide a lot of really interesting mock potential. You've got a lot of bricks that have a full-on smooth end and just 1 stud or 2 studs, which absolutely unlock a lot of possibilities when it comes to creating unique LEGO pieces. And I think that's a really interesting thing for LEGO to do, especially molding each and every one of these to be a particular different arrangement of studs. Personally, I am really curious to see if folks actually do use these bricks to make mocks. Obviously, the main purpose is to actually be a language and for kids who maybe are visually impaired, or for communities of LEGO, not even necessarily kids, but maybe even just visually impaired adults or people who all can read Braille to come together and use this as kind of a new language to use with LEGO. I think it's a great initiative, and I think it's really cool that LEGO is including this many different bricks in one set, which means that something like this isn't just meant for one person. You can really use this to bring together a community, and honestly, that's part of why LEGO sent these out. They wanted to get feedback from the community in terms of, are these useful for activities, and what can they be used for outside in the world of LEGO? So personally, I think this is a wonderful initiative. Big thank you to LEGO for actually sending me these to showcase. I think it's always great to spread awareness of stuff like this that LEGO is doing, and these are certainly some of the most unique items in my collection. I mean, absolutely some strange LEGO molds here with just a couple of studs each. Very, very interesting how LEGO has specifically remolded the standard 2x4 brick to act as its own alphabet, which I really think is very, very cool. Of course, this is just the English language version, so now I guess it's time to move over to the French language version, because that one actually has a lot more variety in terms of what's included in the set itself. Now, I do want to add that I did have to get 2 extra gray base plates from my own collection to display them all on the base plates here. I definitely wanted to display them all on base plates because I have an idea in mind of how I'm going to display this in my LEGO collection, but the set only does come with 2 gray base plates, although really, that's basically all you need unless you want to stack every single one of them out like I just did. Now, let's move on to the next set, 40655, the French alphabet. I expect the unboxing process of this to be practically identical to the unboxing process of the English one, just with different pieces included, but let's just go ahead and do that right now so folks can see that on camera if you're curious about these Braille brick elements. Certainly a very, very interesting thing for LEGO to do, and I find it really interesting how they sent me the French alphabet as well. I really had no idea that they were going to send me these, and when I got both of them at once, I was very, very surprised. I believe I filled out a survey months ago saying I'd might be interested in seeing these bricks, but I never really thought something would come of it. But yeah, as you can see, you open up the French alphabet right here. You have sets of different ones, specifically for the letters that have different symbols associated with them, and those ones actually do have the numbers. So for these ones, while basically the symbols are the same as the English ones, the French bricks do not have the numbers printed on them because the numbers are reserved for some of the other ones. This also is a much wider variety of bricks. There are different molds included here. Certain bricks are utilized in different ways, and I find it really interesting how LEGO has completely changed around the system for how a lot of these pieces work, specifically because a different language necessitates different characters. For instance, if you go down here, the shift key moved from one stud to two studs, which means that there are technically two different types of bricks with the shift key. Same with the hashtag, as I mentioned earlier, which is rather interesting how there are these differences in the bricks themselves, but it is what it is, and I personally am very, very excited to open this up and really be able to figure out the differences between these two things. But first, let's unbox this right now and get them all in line. Okay, so here is the fully completed lineup of the French bricks, set number 40655, which introduces a lot more interesting new molds because obviously they have a much wider variety in the language. You've got all of these special symbols with the characters as well, pretty much from this row onwards. All of these are completely unique signals for the French language, so I think that is really cool how they actually have that fully integrated. And what I also find interesting is the distribution and spread of the characters themselves. Obviously, since they had to work with a smaller range of numbers, or I guess a wider range of different symbols, they had to cut down on these standard characters, so you have less A's, less B's, less C's. Found it strange how there were only 4 F's. I feel like F is a really common word in the French language, but they really only had 4 of those, but I guess you really do have to make some compromises somewhere when it comes to actually integrating the letters themselves. And we can take a closer look at this next board over here. W, X, Y, and Z is pretty much just already on the first row there, and then you get to all sorts of different types of letters with symbols over here. And then, as you move onwards, you get different types of symbols for the commas and the asterisks. That was one thing I did want to point out. The difference between the asterisk and the comma is really, really slight when it comes to the printing. Personally, I couldn't even really tell super closely exactly what the difference was between them. I think this is a comma, and I think that's an asterisk because obviously it's higher up, but the symbol is very, very similar. Now, the one thing I was trying to figure out that I couldn't quite get is why certain things are colored certain ways. I'm sure LEGO has a system behind it, but to me it felt a little bit arbitrary. For example, the hashtag in French is yellow, and the hashtag in English is white. Maybe that's just because in case these two sets did get mixed, they wanted to differentiate them because they are the same exact thing, but a different color. But then if you look at the other ones, like pretty much the colors are very, very similar. Like this is the US one right here, and your colors are basically very similar. Like the G's are blue, the H's are lime here. We have a lot more H's for the US, only 4 H's for the French one. But yeah, there's a lot of different options here. And seeing the color distribution and spread of these two different boards is really interesting because again, you get more letters in different configurations for the French board as it compares to the English one. So if I actually take full advantage of our review studio here and set everything else aside, you can see the distribution is very different when it comes to one versus the other. Let's just get this wide angle right here so you can see the exact difference between the English boards and the French boards right here, which is hopefully going to be useful for folks who maybe are trying to decide exactly which one to get out of the two. If they are publicly available, if you do, say, run an organization, a clinic, or maybe just a social group that involves people who are visually impaired coming together to be able to experience the joy of LEGO, this hopefully will provide you with a bit of a look at what is included in each and every one of the sets. Personally, I'm really appreciative of LEGO for giving me the opportunity to get hands-on with these pieces. They certainly are very unique compared to other LEGO pieces and other LEGO offerings. To my knowledge, you can't even buy these directly from LEGO.com. You pretty much have to get these through an educational program, or you have to request them directly from LEGO. I do not even know all the details of how you can get your hands on these, but maybe that is a good question to ask LEGO because I feel like this is a really great tool for people who want to get access to different types of Braille bricks. One thing that I noticed when trying to feel these is that it is very, very distinct. You can immediately tell what the pattern is on the studs, which is something I really do appreciate, especially because you do have the bounding box of the brick, so you can kind of tell exactly where this is. Maybe that's just because I'm a little bit more experienced with LEGO. I'm very used to feeling studs, but this just felt very natural to me, feeling the bricks themselves, and that was really fantastic. There is only one minor thing I do want to note that I found kind of strange about the bricks. For certain bricks, the printing was a little bit more faded and worn than others. Like, for example, the I9 here is scratched up and faded as compared to the very solid I9 used here. This was a very minor issue I noticed across a couple of the bricks in both boxes. I guess the printed text doesn't really matter that much if mostly they are going to be used by people who are just going to be feeling them, but I did just want to point that out. Maybe that's just a bit of a slight production issue. LEGO may just be ironing out the production process with making these bricks, but yeah. Overall, very, very happy that LEGO is doing this initiative. Very happy that the LAN has been able to send these to me to highlight this initiative, which I think is a really fantastic thing for LEGO to be doing. And I hope you enjoyed this in-depth look at a very specialized, exclusive, unique, and rare LEGO item. Alright, and with that, we have summed up our look at the Braille Brick sets. Let me know down in the comments below, what do you think of these sets? Do you like them? And do you think they have good applications for other potential LEGO builds and mocks? I'm really curious to see if anybody decides to build custom stuff with these bricks. And of course, the overall purpose of these being for visually impaired communities is a really great one. And I can't wait to see what more people do with it, especially if there are lugs like LEGO user groups out there who have members who are visually impaired. This is a really good activity for people to get involved and to really be able to play with Braille. That's all for today. Thank you all so much for tuning in to Duck Bricks. Be sure to like and subscribe for even more LEGO news, reviews, discussion, and analyses coming your way very soon, and bye for now.